The UFC rankings are out and UFC 205 is finally here. But first, you were in Mexico City last week. I'm Matt Parrino.
I'm Forrest Griffin, and welcome to the Rankings Report.
So before we get going here, I mean, you can gloat a little bit here. What did you accomplish in Mexico City?
It's my third Ultimate Fighter win in 4 tries, so that's not too bad.
Did you talk a little smack to Chuck Liddell afterwards?
I absolutely didn't talk smack to Chuck Liddell because he turns out he's a real competitor, and he might hit you, so no.
Let's go right to the main event.
Yes, it was an amazing main event.
Tony Ferguson takes out Rafael dos Anjos, the former champion, and he moves up
Right,
2
Tony
spots.
Ferguson, the Kukui.
El Kukui, otherwise known as
The
the
Kukui.
Boogeyman. No, Boogeyman. That's what it means in English.
No, it's the little thing. I saw an X-Files episode about it. No bullshit.
It literally...
It's a little Mexican demon. I saw an X-Files episode about the Kukui, El Kukui. I know all about it.
It translates to Boogeyman. So, the Boogeyman is real, takes out RDA, and he looked phenomenal. Forrest, he set a record, number 2 all-time now, with significant strikes landed. He landed 199 at altitude. These guys were slinging for 5 rounds.
He took quite a few as well, and he took them well. He wears a punch as good as anyone in that division. Amazing performance. What a tough guy to prepare for. I thought RDA did a great job of staying focused and not getting involved in, Tony Ferguson's head games. And that was a tied fight going into the 5th round.
Actually, Ferguson's corner told him in between rounds that just go out there, be yourself, don't do anything crazy. Almost like he had that thing secure. But like you said, it was tied going to that final round.
It was tied going to that last round. And telling Tony Ferguson not to do anything crazy is like telling water not to be wet.
He showed off some amazing striking skills in this one, but
unorthodox and amazing.
His salsa dancing skills were kind of good too. I mean, he was moving and jiving, dancing in there.
How about his interview skills?
Yeah.
Brief.
Very brief.
Brevity is the soul of wit. Shakespeare said that. Tony Ferguson believes it.
So Ferguson, he moves to the number 1 spot in the division.
The Ferg.
He is set up for a title shot. I mean, we have the lightweight title being defended this weekend. Tony Ferguson jumps over Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is also going to fight at UFC 205. Does he deserve the next title shot, and does he deserve that number 1 ranking?
My opinion right now, yes. But Khabib has a fight to kind of even the score and to maybe get that title shot back.
Alexa Grasso made her UFC debut. We saw a little glimpse of the hype surrounding her striking in that first round. She almost finished Heather Jo Clark. What were your impressions of her whole performance?
I think she felt the pressure. It was her first fight on the big show. She got that out of the way. I feel like there's a lot of really good things to see from her in the future. And also Heather Jo Clark, a tough opponent to get out of there. So it was a good test for her, but I'd like to see her just jump in deep water right away.
What other takeaways did you have from Mexico City? I mean, you ate some crickets. It looked like a fun time. I mean,
yeah. Don't do shots of hot sauce.
Oh yeah. What was the post-game report from that? How was the next morning?
Next morning was horrible, and the 2 following that weren't great either.
You know what's going to be a great night? This Saturday, UFC 205. We've been waiting for this for years here at the UFC, and we're thrilled to finally be making our debut in Madison Square Garden, and it is going to be a big one. We're going to really quickly go through the 3 title fights, give you a brief preview, and we're going to start with Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez for the lightweight title. Obviously, a lot of attention is going to be paid to the wrestling aspect of this one. Alvarez has the advantage, but I don't think a lot of people are talking about this. There's a huge reach disadvantage for Alvarez. I mean, if you look at his fight against Pettis had some really good moments in that fight. McGregor has much better hands than Pettis, and he's going to probably feel that early on in this fight.
Absolutely. I was a bit shocked when I saw the 2 guys face off, and you see Conor's the bigger guy. You think about him fighting at 145, not being the bigger man, but he's longer. He's taller. He's got a lot of advantages as far as distance. Also, I think the biggest difference I see is Conor's body awareness and speed compared to Eddie Alvarez's speed of the takedown. I think Conor will see the takedown coming and be able to move and evade or set something up. The one thing I'll say about Conor is he's really beat up, and he only had 10 weeks between fights, right? He had about 10 weeks between fights, and I'm talking about he wasn't walking right at 10 weeks out from this fight. He wanted to be on this New York card. He wanted to be on the biggest stage in the world ever, the biggest card ever. I hate to say it again, we keep saying that, but it kind of is true. So he made the choice to fight in 10 weeks with such a little turnaround after a 25-minute fight that was awesome, and he was really beat up coming out of.
Maybe the most intriguing fight on this card is the second title fight in the co-main event. Tyron Woodley making his first defense against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
What's who's the favorite? Odds.
Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is a big favorite, 2-1 for a challenger.
That seems pretty crazy to me that Stephen would be the favorite on that. Granted, Stephen's looked great in his last fights, but this is a different fight when you're fighting Woodley.
But if you go back to that Johnny Hendricks fight and the way that he was able to completely neutralize that
Johnny
wrestling.
Hendricks, the perfect opponent for Stephen Thompson. Johnny Hendricks moved forward, came right at him, tried to force the action. Woodley's not going to do that. Woodley's going to pace, move around, set up. Remember, when Woodley knocked out Lawler, it was Lawler that was coming at Woodley. This fight could actually be kind of boring for the first 10 or so minutes.
So finally, our first title fight of the evening is going to be Joanna Jedrzejczyk against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. It is going to be insane. Two great strikers that are going to put on a show. My first question for you, though, Forrest, is does Karolina have enough firepower on the feet to kind of hang with Joanna on this one?
I don't think she does. I think she's got just as much chance winning on the feet as anywhere. I haven't been overly impressed by Karolina's takedown game or ground game. So I think it will be a stand-up fight. And I think Joanna Jedrzejczyk has the better striking.
As always, go to UFC.com for the complete rankings. We'll see you Saturday night, Madison Square Garden, UFC 205. Can you get your arm out of there? It's really making me uncomfortable.
I can't. Here I am making you uncomfortable. See you next week.